Good evening. I am Benjamin Gogan. Tonight we have a special report on the murder on the Orient Express. A man under the alias of Ratchet was found murdered in his compartment. He died around the time of 1 a.m. There were 12 stab wounds and no visible pattern. We have a special guest today, Mrs. Hubbard, who was on the train at the time of murder. Hello, Mrs. Hubbard.
Hello.
What was your reaction when you found out there was a murder?
I was so scared. Scared for my life, Ben. My life. I was about to go to sleep and I could hear and could feel the shadow of a man, a grown man, in my compartment. At that moment, I thought that was the end. All my memories and happiness would be taken away from me at that very moment. I didn't even get to say goodbye to my daughter. My daughter said right before I left, "Be careful," and oh, Ben, I should have listened. I really should have. After I felt the presence of the man in my room, I ducked under the covers, acting as if it was a barrier to protect me from the horrendous murder.
Did you have suspicion that it was anyone on the train?
No, I have no idea. I just know that that monster needs to pay. You never go into a lady's room without her permission. Oh!
What about that button you said you had found?
The button that the murderer left?
Yes, that one.
I found it sitting at the edge of my bed. When I heard that Ratchet, or Cassetti, was killed, they were interviewing people, and I knew right away that I needed to bring this button in. It could be so important.
Is there anything that you would like the world to know?
Yes, actually. This man, Cassetti, was not a good guy. He was Daisy Armstrong's killer. Yes, this was bad what happened, but the murderer was angry. I simply call this karma, a life for a life, or as it says in the Bible, an eye for an eye.
Okay, Mrs. Hubbard. Thank you for making the time for this interview.
No problem. Thank you for having me on. And sweetheart, if you're watching, Mama's coming home, baby.
We will now go to a short commercial break.
Do you need a hitman? We are the one for you.
Is this another case?
Welcome back. I am Benjamin Gogan, for those of you that are just now tuning in. We are covering that continuing story on the murder on the Orient Express. We just interviewed someone that witnessed it all, Mrs. Hubbard. Check our website to watch that again. I will now send it over to Sophia Sari, one of our expert reporters, who is live in London at the house of Hercule Poirot, the expert detective for this case, who happened to be on the train at the time of murder. Hello, Sophia?
Hello, Benjamin. I'm here with Hercule Poirot. What's this whole situation about, Poirot?
Well, the situation is that on the murderer was on the Orient Express at the time of the murder, obviously. He went into Cassetti's compartment, stabbed him 7 to 12 times with no visible pattern. Some were right-handed, some were left-handed. Yeah.
What some evidence that you found?
The first piece of evidence that we found was a letter that was partially burnt in one of Cassetti's drawers. It had his name on it, and we think he tried to destroy it. The second piece of evidence that we found was a handkerchief with the initial H on it, which we thought the murderer had planted there because it ended up belonging to the princess on the train, and we came to a conclusion that she would be too weak to have murdered him or stabbed him as deep as some of those wounds were. The next piece of evidence was a pipe cleaner, which belongs to Colonel Aberforth, because he was the only one that smoked a pipe on the train, but he had an alibi in Mr. McQueen because they were talking about Stalin at the time of the murder. And the next piece was a button that was brought to us by Mrs. Hubbard, which she says belonged to a wagon conductor that was in her compartment, and also the murderer. The button did not correspond to any of the wagon conductors, and we later found a fake wagon uniform with a master key so he could have gotten into the compartment. We also found a red kimono thought to be worn also by the murderer when they were escaping. And the last piece of evidence we found was a knife that was in Mrs. Hubbard's sponge bag planted there by the murderer when he went in her room.
Does this make you suspicious of anyone?
The first person that we suspected was Mr. Hardman because he had a fake ID, but he turned out to be a detective from America, and that quickly became overshadowed by other evidence, including the fact that the Countess also had all of her luggage vandalized because her Christian name started with an H, and her husband did not want anybody to know that, so that she would not get put in jail for any amount of time on fake allegations. The last person that we came to suspect was Mrs. Dunham, because she happened to work at the Armstrong house at the time, but she also had an alibi. So that is how we came to the conclusion that it had to be somebody from the outside getting in on the train and getting off, because none of the evidence fit.
Thank you, Perot, for this interview. Now back to Benjamin in the studio.
Thank you all for tuning in tonight. We will continue to follow this story in the upcoming days. This is Benjamin Gauguin, tuning out for this Thursday. Good night, everyone.